What if every time you reached for comfort, you were actually weakening your own authority? The mind whispers seductive lies about what you deserve. Comfort is the silent assassin. Men stand divided by a single question. What do you do when no one is watching? Some negotiate with their weakness, pleading for just one more easy day. Others embrace the cold water. The respect you crave has a price. Your identity has become a collection of masks worn for others. Marble doesn't bend to please. Each time you avoid discomfort, something watches from within, taking notes on your surrender. The pain reveals what matters. Society celebrates men who never disturb the waters, tamed, predictable, harmless. Yet those who command genuine respect have learned to sit with discomfort until it becomes their ally. Stop begging for approval. The storm shapes the mountain. There exists a threshold where most men turn back, where the body screams and the mind negotiates. Beyond this line waits everything you've claimed to want. Stay silent long enough and watch as others lose their power over you. The hand that endures becomes the hand that guides. Have you noticed how silence disturbs those who cannot inhabit it? Watch how people squirm when you hold your response for 3 seconds longer. The discomfort isn't yours, it's theirs. The disciplined mind recognizes the interval between stimulus and response not as emptiness, but as concentrated power. The pain you try to avoid is not your enemy. It's merely the messenger of a truth your body has already understood, but your mind tries to deny. How many decisions have you made just to silence this messenger? Strong men don't ignore pain. They listen to it, interrogate it, extract from it the wisdom others let slip away between painkillers and distractions. You've built an identity based on what others expect, a comfortable prison with invisible walls. The respect you seek won't come from those you try to impress. It will come from the man you meet in the mirror at 4 in the morning when no one is watching. That man knows your silent surrenders. The storm doesn't negotiate with the boat. The ocean doesn't care about your preferences. Still, you insist on believing that life should be kinder, easier, more accommodating of your weaknesses. Resistance forges character. What you've called injustice might just be the invitation to a more resilient version of yourself. People mistake calmness for weakness until the moment they witness true strength, the kind that doesn't need to announce its presence. Have you noticed how the most respected men rarely raise their voices? Control isn't about dominating others. It's about not being dominated by yourself. The man who controls his reactions controls his destiny. Between impulse and action, there is a space. In that space lies your power. Most live reacting, puppets to their own instincts, slaves to external approval. When was the last time you felt the urge to respond, to defend yourself, to prove your worth, and simply observed that impulse without acting on it? Silence decides. Your mind whispers that comfort leads to happiness. Ancient lie. Look at the men you truly admire. Did they choose the path of least resistance? Comfort is the counterfeiter of fulfillment. It promises everything while delivering nothing of substance. The soul grows through resistance. Pain reveals what matters. We've become experts at avoiding necessary discomfort. We build lives dedicated to the elimination of friction, yet friction is what sharpens the blade. The marble doesn't complain about the chisel. What unnecessary comfort are you clinging to that's keeping your potential imprisoned? The cage feels safe until you realize it was never locked. Watch how quickly society rewards those who never disturb the waters. Men who are tamed, predictable, harmless, yet beneath that validation lies a quiet contempt. Stop begging for approval. The respect of others cannot replace self-respect, and self-respect is earned in private battles, fought in silence, when easier options were available. If the weight of these words finds resonance in your chest, if something ancient stirs in recognition, write "I know" below. This isn't about motivation. It's about remembering what your body already knows, but your mind keeps forgetting. There is power in the pause between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. Stay. There's more to understand. The modern man lives fragmented, his attention scattered like broken glass. He mistakenly believes that doing more equals being more. Look around you. Speed has become a virtue, noise a constant companion. When did you last sit with a thought long enough to see its shadow? Presence isn't passive, it's the ultimate form of engagement. Your ancestors knew something you've forgotten. They understood that a man's word carried the weight of his entire character. Now promises dissolve like morning mist. Integrity isn't measured in grand gestures. It accumulates in the small moments when maintaining your word would be easier to abandon. The pattern becomes the man. We fear silence because it shows us who we really are. In stillness, the masks fall away. The carefully constructed narrative crumbles. What remains when the noise subsides? This is why men fill every moment with distraction, podcasts, notifications, opinions. Background noise drowns the voice that asks, is this truly the man I intended to become? Society celebrates the visible victory, but knows nothing of the invisible sacrifice. The promotion, the physique, the relationship, they see the summit, but not the climb. The respect you seek comes from those who recognize the unseen discipline behind the visible result. The mountain knows the climber. Visible results reveal invisible habits. The Stoic doesn't avoid pain. He redefines his relationship with it. Pain is not something to endure until it passes. It's a teacher whose lessons you extract. When discomfort arrives, ask yourself, what is this trying to show me about my attachments, my avoidance, my true priorities? The obstacle becomes the way. Watch how often your mind seeks the path of minimal resistance. This instinct kept your ancestors alive, but keeps you small. Evolution prepared you to survive, not to thrive. To transcend comfort is to override your basic programming. What separates the extraordinary from the ordinary is simple. The capacity to do what's difficult when easier options exist. Embrace necessary friction. You measure yourself against others because it's easier than facing your true competition. The man you could be. There is a version of you that exists in potential, more focused, more disciplined, more aligned with your deepest values. Each day you move either toward or away from him. This gap is the only measurement that matters. The worthy opponent lives within. The strength that commands genuine respect isn't loud. It doesn't dominate conversations or demand attention. It reveals itself in crisis, when others panic. It shows in your capacity to absorb pressure without transferring it. It's visible in your ability to stand firm when the crowd sways. Quiet power outlasts forceful dominance. Most men break their promises to themselves first, then wonder why others don't take their word seriously. The foundation of self-respect is integrity with yourself. Before dawn, when no one is watching, you make agreements with yourself. How seriously do you take these commitments? The respect others show you will never exceed the respect you show yourself. If something within you recognizes these truths, if you feel both exposed and understood, write, "I'm listening," below. The path isn't about acquiring something new, it's about stripping away what's false, remembering what your body knows but your mind doubts. There is wisdom in discomfort if you have the patience to extract it. Stay. The surface has barely been scratched. The world will try to convince you that your attention is infinite, that you can divide it endlessly without consequence. Ancient lie. Your focus is your most valuable currency, yet you spend it carelessly on trivialities. Notice how rarely you give something your complete attention. The scattered mind produces scattered results. Full presence is becoming rare enough to be remarkable. Your body keeps score of every compromise you've made. Each time you said yes when integrity demanded no. Each time comfort overruled conviction. The tension in your shoulders, the heaviness in your chest, these are not random sensations. They are the physical manifestations of alignment betrayed. The body knows what the mind pretends to forget. We've been taught that emotions should drive decisions, that authenticity means following every internal impulse. Yet the wise man knows emotions are weather patterns, informative but not directive. When was the last time you felt fear, doubt, or resistance and moved forward anyway? Courage isn't the absence of fear. Feelings inform, values direct. Most seek freedom from obligation. The mature man seeks freedom through obligation, through commitments made and honored despite changing moods and circumstances. Paradox of strength. Constraints create power. The river generates force because it has banks. What voluntary constraints have you embraced that focus your potential instead of limiting it? Notice how your mind constantly evaluates situations as good or bad. This judgment happens instantly, automatically. Yet time repeatedly reveals how limited this assessment is. The setback that seemed catastrophic became the redirection you needed. The victory that seemed essential became the distraction that led you astray. Suspend judgment. Time reveals purpose. The quality of your life emerges from the quality of your questions. Most men ask, how can I feel better right now? The wiser question, what discomfort must I embrace today to become who I aspire to be? Small discomforts, voluntarily embraced, prepare you for larger trials that arrive uninvited. The cold shower trains more than the body. You believe you want freedom, but what you truly seek is worthy restraint. Watch children given unlimited freedom. They don't thrive. They become anxious. Structure creates security. Discipline creates freedom. The man with no boundaries serves every impulse, every distraction, every external demand. True liberty comes from chosen limitations. Intentional constraint liberates. Society celebrates complexity, yet mastery comes through simplicity. The master doesn't do 1,000 things adequately. He does few things exceptionally. What if you eliminated everything non-essential? What core practices, if done with complete presence and perfect discipline, would transform your life? Complexity fragments, simplicity concentrates. The essentials reveal the man. The depth of your silence reveals the depth of your thought. Notice how uncomfortable most become with conversational gaps, rushing to fill them with words that add nothing of value. The capacity to rest in silence indicates inner sovereignty. You don't need to prove your intelligence, justify your position, or fill every moment with sound. Meaningful silence outweighs empty words. If these words are finding their mark, if something within you stands taller in recognition, write, I'm reclaiming, below. This conversation isn't happening between us. It's happening within you, between the man you've allowed yourself to become and the man who waits in potential. The greatest battles aren't fought against external forces, but against internal resistance. Stay. There are depths still unexplored. The modern world has convinced you that transformation should be comfortable, convenient, immediate. Look at how fitness is marketed. Easy, fast, painless. Yet every meaningful change you've experienced came through sustained discomfort. The butterfly doesn't complain about the chrysalis. The sword doesn't resent the forge. Necessary pressure creates necessary transformation. Your attention has been weaponized against you. Each notification, headline, and alert is designed to hijack your focus, to pull you from depth into shallows. The ability to maintain prolonged concentration has become revolutionary. When did you last give something your complete attention for hours, undistracted? Deep work reveals deep character. Sustained focus builds uncommon power. You've been trained to believe that expressing every emotion equals authenticity. The Stoic recognizes a higher authenticity, alignment with chosen values rather than fleeting feelings. Notice how respect gravitates toward those who maintain composure when provoked. The gap between stimulus and response is where dignity resides. Emotional restraint demonstrates internal sovereignty. Society celebrates specialists, but venerates the complete man. Physical strength without mental discipline creates a predictable target. Intellectual development without moral foundation produces a dangerous instrument. Spiritual awareness without practical action becomes empty philosophy. Integration creates wholeness. The balanced blade cuts cleanest. Your mind constantly seeks certainty, clear answers, guaranteed outcomes, perfect information, yet growth happens at the edge of uncertainty. When you last ventured beyond your capabilities, risking failure for the sake of expansion? The capacity to function effectively while uncertain separates leaders from followers. Certainty comforts, uncertainty develops. Most modern dilemmas stem from abundance rather than scarcity. Too many options, too much information, too many possibilities. The paradox of choice paralyzes. Liberation comes through voluntary constraint, the conscious narrowing of focus. What if you eliminated all but the essential? Intentional restrictions create freedom. Chosen limitations reveal priorities. We've mistaken comfort for happiness. Yet the moments you look back on with greatest satisfaction were rarely comfortable in the moment. The mountain summit, the project completed, the challenge overcome. These required temporary discomfort for lasting fulfillment. Happiness follows achievement, follows difficulty. Joy follows mastery, follows practice. The respect of others cannot be demanded or negotiated. It can only be earned, then acknowledged. Notice how those who insist upon respect rarely receive it. True respect emerges naturally toward the man who demonstrates self-respect through consistent action. Stop asking to be valued. Become valuable, then remain indifferent to recognition. The world rewards indifference. Your word must become an unbreakable contract, especially the words you speak to yourself. Each promise kept builds internal trust. Each promise broken erodes it. The foundation of confidence isn't affirmation, but evidence. Proof that you do what you claim you'll do, especially when difficult. The man who cannot trust himself cannot be trusted. Small commitments build integrity. If these words have awakened something dormant within you, if you recognize both challenge and truth in them, write, "I choose difficulty" below. This isn't about temporary motivation, but permanent recognition, seeing clearly what you've always known beneath the layers of comfortable deception. The path of least resistance leads to the life of most regrets. Stay. The essential remains unsaid. Watch how quickly men volunteer their opinions, their judgments, their solutions. The compulsion to be heard often exceeds the discipline to understand. True wisdom begins in observation, in the patient gathering of context before conclusion. How many situations have you misread because you rushed to judgment? The master watches longest before moving. Silence gathers information. Society trains you to value external markers, titles, possessions, approval. Yet something within you knows the hollowness of these achievements when disconnected from internal alignment. The promotion that compromises your values, the relationship that requires your inauthenticity, the lifestyle that depletes your vitality. External success masking internal bankruptcy. The worthy path aligns both. We fear discomfort because we've forgotten its purpose. Discomfort is merely feedback, information about boundaries being tested, capacity being expanded, weaknesses being revealed. The muscle grows under tension, the mind sharpens under pressure, the spirit clarifies through adversity. What necessary discomfort are you avoiding that limits your evolution? Resistance reveals the path. Your attention has become fragmented, scattered across endless inputs. This division creates the illusion of productivity while preventing meaningful progress. Notice how rarely you reach the state of complete absorption, where time disappears and effort becomes effortless. This flow state emerges not from ease, but from the intersection of challenge and capability. focus precedes flow. The Stoic recognizes that control exists in concentric circles, complete control over his responses, partial influence over his circumstances, and no authority over external events. Freedom comes not from controlling the uncontrollable, but from focusing energy where genuine power exists. Are you exhausting yourself trying to control what can only be influenced or accepted? Control what's internal. We confuse motion with progress. The urgent displaces the important. Busyness masquerades as effectiveness. Yet the most consequential achievements emerge from deep work, sustained concentration on meaningful challenges. How much of your day is spent in shallow reactivity versus deep creation? Meaningful output requires uninterrupted input. Protect your attention ruthlessly. The respect that matters comes from those who have witnessed your character under pressure. Not your words, but your consistent actions. Not your public persona, but your private disciplines. Not what you promise, but what you deliver when delivery becomes difficult. The respect of the worthy few outweighs the approval of the unobservant many. Quality of respect surpasses quantity. Modern comfort has made us intolerant of natural cycles. We expect constant productivity, consistent mood, perpetual motivation. Yet nature operates through oscillation, expansion and contraction, activity and rest, growth and consolidation. The wise man works with these rhythms rather than against them. How often do you fight your natural cycles instead of harnessing them? Rhythm replaces force. The capacity for delayed gratification predicts the capacity for meaningful achievement. Each time you sacrifice future value for present comfort, you vote for the man you are over the man you could become. Small choices accumulate. Character is built in moments when immediate desire conflicts with distant aspiration. What daily decisions reveal your true priorities? Choices become chains. If you sense both discomfort and recognition in these words, if something ancient within you stands taller in response, write, "I choose depth" below. This conversation transcends intellectual understanding. It reaches toward embodied wisdom, the kind that resides not in concepts, but in the body's knowing. The path narrows as it ascends. Those who seek comfort abandon the climb. Stay. The essential continues to unfold. We mistake information for wisdom, knowledge for understanding. Data accumulates while discernment diminishes. The modern mind gorges on content, but starves for meaning. True wisdom isn't found in consumption, but in contemplation, the patient examination of fewer ideas explored deeply. When did you last sit with a single worthy thought until it revealed its layers? Depth transforms information. Your body carries wisdom your mind has forgotten. Notice how physical discomfort creates mental clarity. Cold exposure silences internal chatter. Intentional hunger sharpens focus. Physical exertion dissolves rumination. The ancient path to mental sovereignty often begins with physical challenge. How often do you use voluntary physical discomfort to transcend mental limitations? The body instructs the mind. Society celebrates public performance while undervaluing private discipline. Yet what happens backstage determines what's possible on stage. The habits maintained when no one watches create the man that everyone sees. The morning routine, the integrity with small commitments, the quality of thought entertained in solitude. Private victories precede public success. Unseen disciplines create visible results. Most seek validation before action, waiting for confidence to precede courage. The wise man reverses this order, recognizing that action generates the very confidence that hesitation awaits. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision that something else matters more. What necessary action have you postponed until you feel ready? Courage before confidence. Movement creates momentum. The quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. Most ask, how can I get what I want? The deeper question, why do I want what I want? Examine the source of your desires. How many emerged from genuine self-knowledge versus external programming? The unexamined desire creates the unexamined life. Question your wants before pursuing them. Authentic desire outlasts imitation. We've been conditioned to view commitment as limitation, a narrowing of possibility, yet true freedom emerges through chosen constraints. The master doesn't practice every instrument. He selects one and explores its depths. What if commitment doesn't restrict potential, but focuses it? What worthy constraints have you resisted that might actually liberate your best energy? Commitment channels power. Notice how often you seek to change your circumstances while resisting change within yourself. External solutions for internal problems. The promotion that won't resolve purposelessness. The relationship that can't heal self-rejection. The achievement that won't silence self-doubt. The outer world mirrors the inner state. What internal shift would make external change unnecessary? Alignment precedes achievement. The mature masculine understands that power comes not from domination, but from restraint. The strength held in reserve, the word unsaid, the reaction withheld. Notice how those who display complete power rarely need to use it. The hand that remains open carries more potential than the clenched fist. What situations trigger your need to demonstrate power rather than simply embody it? Restraint reveals mastery. Your attention has become a commodity, harvested, packaged and sold by those who understand its value better than you do. Liberation begins in reclaiming your focus from external manipulation. The man who cannot control his attention cannot control his life. Each moment of complete presence becomes an act of rebellion in an age of distraction. How intentionally do you direct your most valuable resource? Attention determines direction. If these words stir something dormant yet familiar, if you recognize truth that your body has always known but your mind has forgotten, write, "I reclaim my sovereignty," below. This isn't motivation, it's remembrance. Not information, but recognition. The path of the modern Stoic isn't about acquiring new knowledge, but about returning to ancient knowing. Stay. We approach the core truth that everything else orbits. The modern world fragments men into specialized functions, valuable for what they produce, rather than who they are. This partial engagement creates partial men. Integration requires conscious resistance against these divisions. The complete man develops body, mind, spirit, and character in concert, recognizing that weakness in any domain compromises the whole. What aspect of yourself have you neglected? Wholeness demands balance. We mistake comfort for safety, convenience for advancement. Yet history shows that periods of greatest comfort often precede catastrophic decline. The muscle unused weakens. The mind unchallenged atrophies. The spirit untested grows hollow. Voluntary hardship builds necessary resilience. How often do you intentionally place yourself beyond established capabilities? Discomfort creates capacity that comfort cannot. Your relationship with discomfort determines your relationship with growth. Most modern suffering comes not from discomfort itself, but from resistance to necessary discomfort. The cold shower is rarely as bad as the anticipation of it. The difficult conversation never as terrible as the dread preceding it. What necessary discomfort have you magnified through avoidance? Acceptance precedes transcendence. Society trains you to outsource responsibility, to blame circumstances, upbringing, society, genetics. The Stoic recognizes that regardless of cause, the response remains his domain. Not "why did this happen to me?" but "how will I use this?" Not "who is at fault?" but "what will I create from this position?" Complete responsibility precedes complete freedom. The cause matters less than the response. We fragment attention across multiple inputs, then wonder why focus diminishes. Each context switch depletes mental resources. The capacity for sustained concentration, once common, has become revolutionary. Deep work requires depth protection. What boundaries have you established to preserve your attention from constant fragmentation? The scattered mind creates scattered results. The quality of your presence determines the quality of your impact. Most operate at partial attention, physically present but mentally divided. Notice how rarely you encounter someone fully present, completely attentive, entirely engaged. This quality of presence has become so uncommon that it registers as extraordinary. How often do you give someone the gift of your complete attention? Presence precedes influence. Modern comfort obscures ancient wisdom that strength emerges through voluntary challenge. The body subjected to resistance grows stronger. The mind confronting obstacles becomes sharper. The spirit facing adversity deepens. What arena of your life lacks voluntary challenge, leading to unconscious weakness? The comfortable path creates the unprepared man. Intentional challenge builds intentional strength. We mistake intensity for consistency, dramatic change for lasting transformation. Yet meaningful achievement emerges through sustained ordinary actions rather than sporadic extraordinary efforts. The daily practice maintains for years, the modest habit never abandoned, the core discipline protected despite changing circumstances. What consistent action, maintained over time, would transform your trajectory? Consistency compounds. Your word forms the foundation of your relationship with yourself. Each promise kept strengthens internal trust. Each promise broken undermines it. Self-respect emerges not from affirmation but evidence, proof that you honor commitments to yourself, especially when difficult. How seriously do you take the agreements you make with yourself? Self-trust precedes self-confidence. Small promises build integrity. If these words have awakened recognition, if something within you stands more fully aligned in response, write, "I choose integration," below. This conversation reaches beyond intellectual understanding toward embodied wisdom. Knowledge carried not merely in concept, but in the body's knowing. The path requires neither perfection nor completion, only continued movement in the direction of truth. Stay. We approach the heart of what matters. We've been taught that freedom means unlimited options, maximum flexibility, minimal constraint. Yet observe how this formless existence creates anxiety rather than liberation. True freedom emerges through chosen structure, the voluntary limitations that focus potential. The river generates power because it has banks. What meaningful constraints have you resisted that might actually channel your energy more effectively? Structure creates freedom. Your attention determines your reality. Not merely what you notice, but what you consistently focus upon shapes your perception and experience. Most allow attention to be directed externally, captured by the loudest stimulus, the newest notification, the most urgent demand. Sovereignty begins in reclaiming control of this most precious resource. What deserves your focused attention that rarely receives it? Directed attention creates directed life. Society celebrates public victory while undervaluing private defeat. Yet lasting transformation often begins in necessary failure, the humbling recognition of limitation that precedes genuine growth. The setback that reveals character, the failure that exposes weakness, the loss that clarifies values. When did you last fail in a way that created essential wisdom? Meaningful failure precedes meaningful success. We confuse intensity with impact, noise with significance. Yet the most consequential forces often operate quietly, water shaping stone, not through force, but through persistence. The daily practice maintained for decades, the principle honored despite changing circumstances, the promise kept when breaking it would be easier. What consistent disciplines have shaped your character over time? Quiet consistency transforms. The mature masculine understands that power exists not to dominate others, but to serve principles larger than self-interest. Notice how those who command genuine respect use their strength to protect values, advance worthy missions, create environments where others can flourish. Power directed solely toward personal advantage creates suspicion rather than respect. How do you direct your power? Purpose elevates power. Your response to discomfort reveals your relationship with growth. Discomfort is merely information, feedback about boundaries being tested, capacity being expanded, weaknesses being revealed. The resistance you feel toward necessary discomfort creates suffering beyond the discomfort itself. What growth-essential discomfort do you magnify through avoidance? Acceptance dissolves resistance. We mistake experience for wisdom, exposure for understanding. Yet wisdom emerges not from what happens to you, but from what you extract from what happens. The reflection that follows action, the lesson integrated from failure, the principle distilled from experience. How intentionally do you convert experience into understanding? Reflection transforms experience into wisdom. The depth of your questions determines the depth of your life. Most ask, how can I feel better now? The wiser inquiry, what must I face to become who I aspire to be? Surface questions yield surface answers. Profound questions create profound shifts. What essential question have you avoided asking because you suspect the answer requires uncomfortable change? Honest questions reveal honest paths. Society fragments connection, replacing depth with breadth, quality with quantity. Yet meaningful relationship requires focused presence, the capacity to be entirely here, completely attentive to the person before you. This quality of attention has become so rare that it registers as remarkable. How often do you offer someone your undivided presence? Deep attention creates deep connection. If these words have stirred something ancient within you, if you recognize both challenge and truth in what you've heard, write, I choose the deeper path, below. This conversation transcends information exchange. It reaches toward recognition of what you've always known beneath layers of comfortable forgetting. The path forward isn't about acquiring something new, but remembering what's essential. Stay with this unfolding. We approach the culmination of this exploration. There comes a moment when a man understands that his greatest power was never in what he said, but in what he withheld. The conversations you don't enter, the explanations you don't offer, the validation you no longer seek. You've spent years speaking to be heard when silence would have commanded more respect. The quiet man holds the room. What price have you paid for the approval that never satisfied you? Every mask worn becomes a prison eventually. Every performance exacts its toll. The exhaustion you feel isn't from doing too much. It's from being too little of who you actually are. What would happen if you stopped negotiating for respect that should be automatic? The worthy man states his terms. Between stimulus and response lies the space where men are made. Most live reactive lives, puppets to circumstance, slaves to impulse. Yet you've glimpsed another way, not the absence of storms, but becoming the eye within them. Not freedom from difficulty, but mastery within it. What do you do when no one watches? Character forms in private. The world will continue offering comfortable chains, easy distraction, shallow approval, painless mediocrity. These were never the path to the life you sensed was possible. The strength others recognize comes not from dominating them, but from governing yourself. From standing unmoved when circumstances demand reaction. Presence before words. The still water cuts deepest. Notice how rarely you encounter a man fully present, completely attentive, entirely engaged. This quality has become so uncommon that it registers as extraordinary. The respect you seek cannot be demanded or negotiated. It emerges naturally toward the man who demonstrates self-respect through consistent action. Stop chasing what follows naturally. The path lies inward. What if the door to your authentic power was never locked, merely waiting for you to stop pushing and simply turn the handle? The journey continues in silence, where the real work has always happened. If these words have awakened something that needed no introduction, leave your mark below and bring another man into this conversation. The ones who need this will recognize themselves in it. Silence decides.